To the midterms now, just 5 months away. Who wins control? Deeply in flux. And now this, Republican Representative Tom Garrett of Virginia announcing yesterday he will not run for re-election this year. Instead, he will seek treatment for alcoholism. That means 40 Republican House seats now sit vacant versus 20 Democrat seats. Democrats need to pick up 23 House seats to retake control. A Real Clear politics analyst weighing in saying, quote, "If you looked 6 months ago, you would say it was doomsday for Republicans. I think we have gone from Democrats being heavy favorites to take the House to something of a dead heat, maybe even a thumb on the scale for Republicans." With me now, political commentator and expert Kristin Tate and Democrat strategist Danielle McLaughlin. Great to see you both.
Great to be with you, Liz.
Kristin, it looks like neck and neck. Your take?
Oh, I think it's increasingly neck and neck. This year has seen a record number of GOP lawmakers leaving Capitol Hill, but it's looking increasingly unlikely that the Democrats will actually be able to regain control. Strategists on both sides of the aisle are looking very closely at 23 seats held by Republicans in districts where Hillary Clinton won in 2016 and 12 seats held by Democrats where Donald Trump won in 2016. These are the seats that are very vulnerable to switch. But the Democrats' big problem is that they've failed to come up with a message that really resonates with working class Americans. It seems to me, Liz, that they're running on rolling back tax cuts and playing on the perceived hatred of Donald Trump, and I don't really think that's a winning strategy for them.
To Kristin's point, Danielle, what is the Democrats' growth strategy? They're going to attack Trump for being misleading, inflammatory, for self-dealing conflicts of interest and the like. But what is their strategy to for the American people, how we're going to help your wallet? What is their strategy?
Well, here's one. The Democrats are suggesting that these tax cuts be rolled back at the highest echelons of earners and putting $50 billion towards education, to our much-needed schools, infrastructure, teachers and resources. So that's one really important thing. I think the other thing that is going to be interesting to see how it plays out is the idea that Republicans try and make the tax cuts for consumers permanent just before the election, or at least start talking about that, introducing a bill. The problem is healthcare costs are rising, estimated to be 15% this year, and also gas prices are rising, so that may really cut into people's wallets.
Yeah, I mean, the problem is, Kristin, we have a spending problem. I mean, you're going to tax the upper brackets even more. I mean, Republicans can tout the tax cuts. We've got record jobless rates going down, 6.6 million job openings. I mean, Democrats have a guaranteed job program. I mean, is that the growth policy that's going to work?
Right. Well, I think the GOP is seeing this little boost in popularity right now because, generally speaking, people are happy. The tax cuts did put more money in working Americans' pockets. We are seeing growth. The economy is robust. And I also think it's really important, Liz, to point out how toxic the leadership of today's Democratic Party has become. The more closely tied that midterm candidates are perceived as being to someone like Nancy Pelosi, the worse they will do with former blue dog Democrats who may have voted Trump in 2016 because they feel that today's Democratic Party has forgotten about them.
All right, Danielle, you're going to get the first question, I promise, when we come right back, because we're up against the break. We're picking up on a growing trend. Trump has his critics scrambling. It's getting increasingly harder for his media and Democrat critics to update their latest withering indictments of the president as he keeps them off balance. Case in point, last week they attacked President Trump as a, quote, unprepared amateur for canceling the No-Co summit. But now it looks like that is still on. They are scrambling. Let's bring back the panel, Kristin Tate and Danielle McLaughlin. Danielle, I mean, really, North Korea really did the 180. They had a softer rhetoric after Trump canceled. We noticed it day to day. The media said one thing, and then the next day it said another. Your take, Danielle?
I think what the media is reacting to is the sense that this feels haphazard, and I think that's partly because of what the Trump administration has done. But how do you know that it's haphazard because the media is saying it? In other words, we've got veterans. Sorry, stay with me. Sure.
We have military and intelligence veterans in the White House working on this daily. Why? I don't think it's haphazard. I think they know what they're doing. These guys are at it for decades. Go ahead.
No, certainly. I only refer to the extreme rhetoric from both sides early on, the fact that we haven't had a Korean ambassador until this month, 16 months into the administration. I think that's what they're getting at. I think a lot of it is unfair and fairness, and I do think one I'll say is that everything that is old is new again. We saw similar things with Bill Clinton in 1994.
We just noticed the media having to scramble to update their comments when the president does one thing and says, you know what, it's still back on. You know, Kristin, here's the other story. It's not only Trump that showed the media and the Dems to be wrong, but so do the markets. I mean, Chuck Schumer said this over the weekend, that even as oil prices were plunging, that the president's actions has led to higher oil prices. Let's watch.
President Trump's reckless decision to pull out of the Iran deal has led to higher oil prices. Whatever meager benefit working families might have seen from Trump's tax scam for the rich is being wiped out by the gas prices that President Trump is responsible for.
Your reaction, Kristin?
The media and Democrats will do anything, even apparently resort to lying, to criticize Donald Trump. Getting back to North Korea, I mean, any progress we can make there would benefit the U.S. and the world. Republicans and Democrats should be cheering him on right now, but predictably, it really seems like the media wants him to fail. And over the last year, we've seen these outlets that were traditionally beacons of journalistic integrity, like the New York Times, acting more like political organizations than news organizations. But you know what, Liz? As they become more flagrant in their anti-Trump bias, they lose their influence because people see this, they see what's going on, and they tune out.
Danielle, final point. That is the point. This is not a Republican or Democrat issue. It's about safety, right, for the world over, right?
Of course, and your point is exactly well taken. This is not just about Americans, this is about Europeans, this is people in the Pacific Rim who are obviously placed closest, like Guam. That would be an obvious target for Kim Jong-un. We need to get this done, and we need to have a diplomatic solution.
Great to have you on, Danielle and Kristin. Good to see you. Come back soon. We're going to be right back, you guys. Don't go away.